In the world of psychology, there are ideas that don't shout, but whisper, and their quiet power changes everything. One such idea is the concept of holding, a theory from the mind of Donald Winnicott. He believed that real emotional healing doesn't start with a dramatic breakthrough or a harsh correction. It starts with a feeling we all crave: safety. So, what exactly is Winnicott's holding theory? At its heart, it's about creating a space, both emotionally and psychologically, where a person feels safe enough to explore their deepest thoughts and feelings without fear. Winnicott wasn't just talking about a physical embrace. He was talking about emotional holding, the profound experience of being understood, supported, and simply allowed to be who you are, without the pressure to change on someone else's timeline. To really get this, let's go back to the very beginning. Picture a baby, cradled in a caregiver's arms. This infant doesn't understand words, logic, or what society expects. What it understands is presence. When this baby is held gently, fed when it's hungry, and soothed when it's distressed, something incredible happens. The world begins to feel like a safe place. Winnicott proposed that this early experience builds the entire foundation for our emotional lives. But this isn't just about babies. Holding theory is a powerful lens for understanding adult healing, too. Winnicott noticed that many people struggling with deep emotional conflicts aren't looking for intellectual answers. They're looking for safety first. In therapy, the therapist's role isn't to be a judge or an authority figure who forces change. Instead, the therapist helps create what Winnicott called a holding environment. Now, a holding environment isn't about control. It's about creating a sanctuary where vulnerability is not only allowed, but welcomed. Imagine carrying a heavy emotional burden for years. You'd naturally fear being exposed, rejected, or misunderstood. If you feel judged, you retreat further into isolation. But when you feel emotionally held, when you sense that another person is truly listening, without rushing to fix you, a quiet, internal shift becomes possible. Winnicott had a deep respect for the pace of human change. He knew you can't force genuine transformation. Our emotions aren't like machines that follow instructions. People don't heal because they're pressured to heal. They heal when the environment around them allows their own natural tendency toward balance to take over. This leads to a profound conclusion. Stability comes before growth. Think of it like tending to a young plant. If you keep pulling it out of the soil to check on its roots, it's never going to thrive. The soil needs to be stable, supporting the roots as they grow quietly and unseen. In the same way, our emotional development needs consistency and a stable ground to stand on. This is where Winnicott's famous idea of the good enough caregiver comes in. It's often misunderstood as promoting mediocrity, but it's far deeper than that. A perfect caregiver would anticipate every need, creating a world without any frustration. But life isn't perfect. A good enough caregiver meets the child's needs most of the time, but also allows for small, manageable disappointments. These moments teach the child a crucial lesson. The world doesn't instantly bend to their will. It's a gentle, gradual journey from feeling like the center of the universe to understanding objective reality. The therapy room mirrors this. The therapist provides emotional consistency, patience, and acceptance. Within that safe space, a person can finally dare to look at painful memories, deep-seated fears, and unresolved conflicts, knowing they won't be emotionally abandoned in the process. Winnicott believed that many psychological struggles are rooted in early failures of holding. When a child grows up without that reliable emotional container, they can develop lifelong patterns of anxiety, insecurity, or a fundamental difficulty in trusting others. This doesn't mean every problem stems from childhood, but our early environments certainly leave their mark. This theory also gave us the idea of transitional objects. Think of a child's favorite blanket or stuffed animal. These aren't just toys, they are symbols of safety that help the child manage the space between themselves and their caregiver. They are a physical representation of comfort that helps a child tolerate separation without feeling abandoned. This insight was revolutionary and continues to influence how we understand attachment and emotional regulation today. Perhaps the most beautiful part of holding theory is its gentle perspective on what healing really is. It isn't just about removing pain. It's about creating a space where the self can naturally reorganize and find its own way back to wholeness. We often expect personal growth to be a lightning bolt of sudden enlightenment. But Winnicott's vision was much quieter. He suggested that when a person feels securely held, their true self can slowly, cautiously emerge from hiding. What is the true self? It's not the mask we wear to please others or fit in. It's the spontaneous, authentic part of us that comes out to play when fear subsides. Without that feeling of being held, we might develop what Winnicott called a false self, a personality built for survival, designed to meet the demands of the outside world rather than express our inner truth. A holding environment, therefore, is a space that protects and nurtures authenticity. And this idea isn't confined to a therapist's office, it's everywhere. Parents create holding environments for their children through consistent love and emotional availability. Teachers create them when students feel safe to ask questions without fear of humiliation. Leaders create them when their teams can share ideas without fear of punishment. Even our closest friendships can be powerful holding spaces where trust allows us to be our truest selves. At its core, holding theory reminds us that growth isn't always born from struggle. Sometimes, growth is born from safety. Not a safety that avoids all challenges, but the kind of safety that gives us the courage to face those challenges without losing our sense of who we are. In a world that often praises toughness and emotional suppression, Winnicott's idea is a gentle, radical act of wisdom. Strength doesn't always come from being hardened by life. Sometimes, the deepest strength grows quietly, inside someone who was once simply held. So, Winnicott's holding theory is the profound understanding that we heal, we grow, and we become who we are meant to be when we exist in environments of emotional safety, patience, and genuine acceptance. Because before we can transform, we must feel secure. Before we can be independent, we must learn to trust. And before we can face the world, we must first feel held.